I didn't plan to tell this story. Honestly, I tried to forget it, to bury the pieces of myself that broke that day. But some pain doesn't stay buried. It lives in quiet glances, in songs you can't listen to anymore, in the silence between two heartbeats. What happened changed everything. And as I share it with you, moment by moment, I'll reveal things I never thought I'd say out loud. There will be parts that hurt, parts that surprise you, maybe even parts that sound too real to ignore. But if you stay with me to the end, you'll understand why I had to tell it now, why some truths can't stay hidden forever. The biting wind whipped through the courthouse square, a tangible manifestation of the chill that had settled in Elias Thorne's bones. It wasn't just the weather. It was the weight of the city, the cynicism that permeated its very foundations, a skepticism he felt directed squarely at him. He adjusted his worn coat, the fabric offering scant protection against the cold, both physical and emotional. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with a predatory energy, a collective anticipation of a spectacle they all seemed to crave. He could feel the eyes on him, assessing, judging, already dismissing him before he'd even uttered a word. Elias, a man of modest means, a lawyer who'd chosen purpose over profit, was about to stand before Judge Eleanor Ainsworth, a woman known for her unwavering adherence to the law and her equally unwavering disdain for those who challenged the status quo. This wasn't just another case. This was the culmination of months of relentless preparation, sleepless nights fueled by lukewarm coffee, and the burning conviction that justice, however elusive, was worth fighting for. He'd poured every ounce of his being into this, sacrificing everything to defend a client, a young woman named Sarah, against charges that reeked of corruption and a system designed to protect its own. Sarah, a single mother, was accused of a crime she didn't commit, a pawn in a game of power and influence. The evidence was flimsy, the prosecution's case built on whispers and innuendo, yet the odds were stacked against them. The courtroom was filled with the usual suspects, the polished, well-dressed lawyers from the opposing firm, their faces etched with smug confidence, their pockets lined with the wealth that often dictated the outcome of these proceedings. The press, hungry for a sensational story, their cameras poised to capture every flicker of doubt, every moment of weakness. And the gallery, a sea of faces, some curious, some bored, but most of them, he suspected, eager to witness his humiliation. The narrative of justice had become a familiar tune, a symphony of legal jargon and procedural delays, where the powerful often dictated the melody. He knew the unspoken rules, the subtle cues, the unspoken expectations. He understood the pressure to conform, to compromise, to simply accept the inevitable. But Elias refused to play the game. He'd chosen a different path, a path less traveled, a path that demanded unwavering integrity and a willingness to stand against the tide. He was an anomaly in this gilded cage, a voice of reason in a chorus of self-interest. He knew they underestimated him. They saw the rumpled suit, the tired eyes, the quiet determination, and they mistook it for weakness. They were wrong. The whispers started as he walked to the defense table, a murmur of derision, a chorus of disbelief. He could practically feel their amusement radiating from them. This guy? He's going to take us on. Their laughter, a low, insidious hum, was a prelude to the storm he knew was brewing. He took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of old wood and impending conflict. He looked at Sarah, her face pale, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. He saw not just a client, but a symbol of everything he was fighting for. He saw her resilience, her refusal to be broken, and it steeled his resolve. This wasn't just about winning a case. It was about proving that justice, however tarnished, could still prevail. It was about demonstrating that even in the darkest corners of the legal system, a single voice, fueled by truth and conviction, could still make a difference. He knew what was at stake. He knew the price of defiance, but he was ready. He had to be. The judge's gavel was about to fall, and with it, the opening act of a drama that would test the very foundations of what he believed in. The courtroom's air crackled with an almost palpable tension. Elias felt the weight of their skepticism, a tangible pressure that sought to suffocate his resolve. He noticed the subtle shifts in the gallery, the barely concealed smirks, the dismissive glances exchanged between the opposing counsel. Their confidence was of finely crafted armor, gleaming with the arrogance of privilege, He knew they anticipated a quick, decisive victory, a foregone conclusion painted in the hues of their perceived superiority. He, however, was armed with something far more potent, a weapon forged not in wealth or influence, but in relentless preparation and an unwavering commitment to Sarah's defense. Furthermore, the very structure of the courtroom itself seemed to conspire against him. The high ceilings, the imposing oak paneling, the cold formality, all designed to intimidate, to remind everyone of the power dynamics at play. Yet, Elias refused to be cowed. He saw through the veneer of authority, recognizing the inherent flaws in the system, the subtle biases that often tilted the scales of justice. Building on this, he understood that his role extended beyond simply presenting evidence and making legal arguments. He had to be a storyteller, a weaver of narratives that would compel the jury to see Sarah, not as a faceless defendant, but as a human being deserving of empathy and understanding. Consequently, he had meticulously crafted his case, not just around the facts, but around the emotional truths that lay beneath the surface. He knew that the jury wouldn't be swayed by legal jargon alone. They needed to feel the injustice, to grasp the profound implications of the accusations against Sarah. Conversely, the opposing counsel, with their polished presentations and carefully rehearsed arguments, relied on the established order, on the assumption that the system would naturally favor them. They underestimated the power of authenticity, the raw, unadulterated truth that he was determined to unleash. Another crucial layer is the insidious nature of the accusations themselves. They were not based on concrete evidence, but on a web of circumstantial details, whispers, and carefully constructed insinuations. It was a strategy designed to erode Sarah's character, to portray her as someone unworthy of compassion or consideration. Now, consider how this applies when you face similar challenges in your own life. The accusations might not be legal, but they might be just as damaging, just as insidious. They might come from colleagues, from family members, from the internal voices of self-doubt. Elias's task was to dismantle these falsehoods, to expose the manipulations, and to reveal the true nature of the situation. He understood that the battle for Sarah's freedom was also a battle against the forces of prejudice and misinformation. Have you ever been through something like this? Or do you know someone who has? We'd love to read your comment below. We read everything with an open heart, and who knows, maybe your words will help someone else too. Also, check if you're still subscribed. There are many powerful stories coming, and you don't want to miss the next episodes. He began to meticulously dissect the prosecution's case, pointing out the inconsistencies, the leaps of logic, the blatant disregard for the truth. He presented the evidence, not as dry facts, but as pieces of a puzzle, gradually revealing the bigger picture. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't resort to theatrics. He simply presented the truth, calmly and persuasively, allowing it to speak for itself. He knew that his quiet determination would be far more effective than any display of bravado. He was a lighthouse in a storm, a beacon of hope in a sea of doubt. The courtroom, it seemed, was a stage set for a drama where the script was already written, the ending preordained. Elias sensed this heavy expectation, a collective belief that justice was a commodity, a prize awarded to those with the deepest pockets and most powerful connections. Yet, his strategy wasn't just about countering the prosecution, it was about subverting the narrative itself. He aimed to reshape the courtroom into a space where truth, not power, held sway. His approach was a deliberate act of defiance, a quiet revolt against the established order. Furthermore, the very architecture of the legal system, with its rigid rules and arcane procedures, was designed to obscure the truth, to create a labyrinth where the innocent could easily become lost. Elias recognized this inherent flaw, understanding that he had to navigate this complex maze with both skill and integrity. The opposing counsel, content to operate within the familiar confines of legal precedent, failed to see the forest for the trees. They were focused on winning, on achieving a favorable outcome, rather than on uncovering the genuine facts of the matter. Building on this, Elias understood that the jury, despite their legal obligations, were, at their core, human beings. They were susceptible to emotions, to biases, to the powerful pull of a well-crafted story. He decided to appeal to their sense of empathy, to their inherent understanding of right and wrong. His goal wasn't merely to present evidence, it was to connect with them on a deeper level, to awaken their sense of justice. He sought to transform the courtroom into a place where the voices of the marginalized, those who were often silenced, could finally be heard. Consequently, he structured his case not as a dry recitation of facts, but as a compelling narrative. He used vivid language, carefully chosen details, and a deliberate pacing to draw the jury into Sarah's world. He showed them, rather than told them, the injustices she had faced, the hardships she had endured. He wanted them to feel her pain, to understand her struggle. He presented her as a survivor, not a criminal, as a victim of circumstance, not a perpetrator of wrongdoing. Conversely, the prosecution's case was built on assumptions, on suppositions, on the shaky foundation of hearsay and speculation. They relied on the jury's preconceived notions, on their fears and prejudices. They presented Sarah as an anomaly, as someone who didn't fit into their neat, ordered world. Elias, in turn, sought to dismantle those false perceptions, to reveal the humanity that lay beneath the surface. He understood that the battle for Sarah's freedom was also a battle for the soul of the courtroom. Another crucial layer is the concept of truth itself. The legal system, with its emphasis on evidence and procedure, often struggles to grasp the full extent of human experience. Elias understood that the truth wasn't always a simple thing, that it was often hidden beneath layers of complexity and contradiction. He was prepared to delve into those depths, to expose the nuances of the situation, to reveal the hidden motivations and unspoken realities. Now, consider how this applies when you face similar challenges in your own life. The truth might be obscured, buried beneath layers of misinformation or self-deception. Your task, like Elias's, is to uncover it, to bring it to light, no matter how difficult the journey may be. If you're enjoying the story, leave a like and tell us where you're listening from. It really helps us understand your thoughts and keeps us motivated to keep going. The courtroom, a repository of legal battles and societal judgments, held its breath. The opposing counsel, their faces a mask of practiced indifference, exchanged glances, anticipating the inevitable. They likely envisioned a swift verdict, a decisive blow against the underdog. They, in their polished suits and expensive shoes, held all the cards, or so they believed. Elias, however, approached the situation with a different strategy entirely. His aim transcended the mere winning of a case. He sought to expose the vulnerabilities within the system itself. He intended to reveal the fragile underpinnings of power, the subtle manipulations that often shaped outcomes. Moreover, the prosecution's case, a carefully constructed edifice of conjecture and circumstantial evidence, began to crumble under Elias's persistent scrutiny. He didn't engage in grandstanding or emotional appeals. Instead, he meticulously dismantled their arguments piece by piece, exposing their weaknesses with surgical precision. He presented alternative interpretations, highlighting the inconsistencies and illogical leaps in their narrative. In addition to this, he introduced evidence that subtly, yet undeniably, shifted the balance of power, challenging the jury to reconsider their preconceived notions. The essence of his approach centered on the art of persuasion. He understood that winning a case wasn't just about presenting facts. It was about crafting a compelling story. He sought to connect with the jurors on a human level, to awaken their capacity for empathy and understanding. Conversely, the prosecution, consumed by their own sense of entitlement, had lost sight of the human element, reducing Sarah to a mere object of suspicion. Consequently, Elias employed a variety of rhetorical techniques to achieve his objectives. He used carefully chosen words, vivid imagery, and strategic silences to emphasize key points and create a sense of dramatic tension. He presented Sarah, not as a criminal, but as a complex individual, a woman facing extraordinary adversity. He emphasized her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering determination to overcome the obstacles in her path. Furthermore, he subtly incorporated elements of humor, using wit and irony to disarm the opposing counsel and deflate their inflated sense of self-importance. Now, consider how this applies when facing your own personal battles. Perhaps you find yourself up against a formidable opponent, be it a difficult colleague, a challenging family member, or even the internal critics that reside within you. The temptation is to meet fire with fire, to engage in a direct confrontation. However, Elias demonstrated that a more effective approach might involve a strategic blend of persuasion, empathy, and meticulous preparation. Recognize the vulnerabilities of your opponent and craft your own narrative to resonate with the values and principles of those you seek to influence. Conversely, the prosecution's tactics relied on intimidation and manipulation. They sought to control the narrative, to dictate the terms of the debate. Elias, however, refused to be intimidated. He recognized that the real power lay not in brute force, but in the ability to connect with others, to inspire them to see the world from a different perspective. Another crucial aspect of this was his deep understanding of human psychology. He knew that people were more likely to be persuaded by reason and emotion than by intimidation and threats. He knew that the most effective way to win an argument was not to dominate the opposition, but to invite them to join you on a journey of discovery. If you love stories that truly move you, that warm your heart or give you chills, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. I promise the next story might surprise you even more. Building on this, he understood the power of silence. He knew that there were times when the most effective response was no response at all. He learned to pause, to let his words sink in, to allow the jury to draw their own conclusions. He understood that the absence of words could often be more powerful than the most eloquent speech. He was not just a lawyer, he was an artist, a sculptor of truth, shaping his arguments with meticulous care. Reflecting on this journey so far, we've traversed the intricate landscape of a courtroom, a microcosm of societal values and human frailties. We've witnessed the subtle power plays, the unspoken hierarchies, the weight of expectation that can either crush the spirit or forge an unyielding resolve. The narrative, like a carefully constructed mosaic, has been pieced together, each shard representing a facet of truth, a layer of complexity in the unfolding drama. From the initial chill of the courtroom to the gradual thawing of skepticism, we've observed the subtle shifts in power, the quiet revolutions of thought. Drawing these strands together, we begin to perceive a larger pattern, a more profound truth that extends beyond the confines of the legal arena. The courtroom, in this context, serves as a mirror, reflecting the challenges we encounter in our own lives. The battles fought, the strategies employed, the emotional undercurrents, these are all echoes of our own struggles, our own attempts to navigate the complexities of human relationships and societal structures. The characters, with their strengths and flaws, their triumphs and setbacks, mirror the multifaceted nature of our own inner worlds. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, illuminated by the accumulated wisdom gleaned from the unfolding narrative. The story has become a crucible, a place of transformation, where the elements of doubt, fear, and prejudice are subjected to the intense heat of truth and compassion. The initial impression of a predetermined outcome, a seemingly insurmountable challenge, has gradually given way to a sense of possibility, a recognition that even in the face of adversity, there is always room for hope. As we pivot towards the final reflection, we can see the narrative not as a simple tale of legal maneuvering, but as a carefully orchestrated symphony. The individual notes, the specific details of the case, have blended into a harmonious whole, creating a composition that resonates with the deeper chords of the human experience. The courtroom, once a symbol of constraint and limitation, has transformed into a space of potential, a place where the seemingly insurmountable can be overcome. The unfolding drama has been like a sculptor patiently chipping away at a block of stone, revealing the hidden form beneath. Each stroke of the chisel, each carefully chosen word, has brought us closer to the heart of the matter, unveiling the essence of the struggle. The initial impression of a cold, impersonal system has been gradually replaced by a sense of warmth, a recognition that even within the most rigid structures, the human spirit can flourish. The narrative, in its entirety, is a testament to the power of resilience, the enduring strength of truth, and the unwavering belief in the possibility of justice. The final moments unfolded with a palpable sense of anticipation, a hush settling over the courtroom as Judge Ainsworth prepared to deliver her verdict. The opposing counsel, their faces a mask of carefully controlled arrogance, exchanged glances, their posture radiating an air of assured victory. They had, after all, played the game by the rules, or so they believed. Elias, however, stood firm, his gaze fixed on Sarah, whose eyes reflected a blend of fear and a nascent hope. He had poured his heart and soul into this defense, not for personal gain, but because he understood the profound importance of fighting for those who had been marginalized, whose voices had been silenced by the weight of societal prejudice and legal indifference. As the judge began to speak, the courtroom held its breath. The words, measured and precise, echoed through the chamber, carrying the weight of justice and the unwavering scrutiny of the law. Then, the unexpected. A subtle shift in tone, a flicker of recognition in the judge's eyes, a moment of profound reflection. The verdict, when it came, wasn't simply a pronouncement of guilt or innocence. It was a testament to the power of truth, a validation of the human spirit's capacity for resilience. It was a victory not just for Sarah, but for the very ideals that Elias had fought so tirelessly to uphold. The murmuring began, a wave of disbelief rippling through the courtroom, followed by a stunned silence. If you love stories that truly move you, that warm your heart, or give you chills, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. I promise the next story might surprise you even more. And then, the moment that would forever be etched in the annals of the legal system, the moment that transcended the boundaries of the case itself. Judge Ainsworth, a woman known for her unwavering adherence to the letter of the law, her often stern demeanor, rose from her seat. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the courtroom, taking in the shocked faces of the prosecution, the relieved expressions of the defense team, and the quiet dignity of Sarah. And then, she spoke, her voice clear and resonant, carrying the weight of her years on the bench, the weight of her own understanding of justice. "Respect, counselor," she declared, her voice carrying through the room. "Respect for your unwavering commitment to truth, for your tireless defense of the vulnerable, for your ability to illuminate the shadows and reveal the light." The words hung in the air, a validation of Elias's efforts, a recognition of his integrity, a testament to the transformative power of unwavering conviction. The courtroom erupted in a flurry of whispers, the atmosphere charged with a newfound respect, a realization that the rules of the game had been subtly, yet irrevocably, altered. The opposing counsel's composure crumbled, their carefully constructed facade of superiority shattered. Elias, however, remained composed, his gaze meeting the judge's, a silent acknowledgement of the profound impact of her words. He had achieved more than just a legal victory. He had ignited a spark, a reminder that even within the most rigid systems, the human spirit, fueled by truth and compassion, could prevail. The true practice begins now. The story of Elias Thorne, of his unwavering commitment to justice, serves as a powerful reminder. The world is filled with courtrooms, both literal and metaphorical, where the voices of the marginalized are often silenced, where the powerful seek to maintain their grip on control. The challenge lies not just in recognizing these injustices, but in actively working to dismantle them. It calls upon us to be like Elias, to challenge the status quo, to speak truth to power, and to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. It invites us to be storytellers, crafting narratives that illuminate the shadows, reveal the hidden truths, and inspire others to join the fight for a more just and equitable world. The essence of this lies in the everyday choices we make, the values we uphold, the actions we take, and the way we treat each other. The legacy of Elias, of the judge's pronouncement, is a call to action. It's an invitation to carry the torch of justice, to be a beacon of hope, to remember that even in the darkest of times, the light of truth can always prevail.